Everybody needs an advocate.
Because I'm not there 24/7.
Families that have hemophilia mature faster.
I've been feeling a lot of anxiety lately.
I'm so tired of being strong.
To understand how far we've come helps you appreciate where we are now.
No is just no for this person. Somebody's going to say yes sooner or later.
And it helps you understand that there are more steps to be taken in the future.
You're the first person I've met with a bleeding disorder.
Let's fight the disease and not the people who have it.
So we've got Josh Gordy here, who is an NFL Superbowl champion, and Justin Mohr, who's a DEA officer and a Texas native, here to share a bit about their stories, the obstacles, challenges, and adversities they have faced, what they have learned. So I want to start with Justin, with you. You're from Texas originally, small town Texas. Talked about how playing football is a way of life. Can you just give us a little background to growing up here in Texas?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Pittsburgh, Texas, if anybody knows where that is. About 3,000 people. So everybody here that's from Texas knows what that means. That means Fridays and nothing but football. Watch football from the moment I was born, and then I played through high school here in Texas. So I'm proud of that, and I'm glad to be back here.
You played in the NFL. You played in college, Justin. At what point did you realize, like, this is actually going to be a substantial part of my life?
Just growing up, like I say, it was a culture. You know, growing up around it, you just knew you was going to play football. You know, my older brother played, older cousins played. But I will say, once I did get an opportunity, get a blessing to have a scholarship to go to college to play football, I say, man, well, maybe I got some kind of talent. So, you know, maybe something here, you know, and just put forth all my effort I could and see how far I can go with it.
Similar for me growing up, my family was all football all the time. It's all we did. So I knew early that it was something I was going to do. I like to eat, so it was natural for me to play. Unlike Josh, I wasn't talented enough to go to really big schools and do all that, so I had to force my way onto campuses and try to get on, you know, with whatever team I could. So I found a small school in Virginia, Division III school that I played at. I loved the experience of that environment, and what I mean is, we're not there. You can't play for the fans or the money, of course. You know, it's all about each other and the teamwork. And to me, man, that was really, really cool. Those 4 years were very special.
To go back to you, Josh, you know, it's easy for us to say, and it's, you know, look, NFL Super Bowl champion, right? That's not a small thing. That's an amazing accomplishment. Congratulations on being one of the few people in the world for whom that title is appropriate. But we've talked about this before. It wasn't a golden path for you. No one rolled out the red carpet. You've kind of had to fight and scrap for every accomplishment you had in your athletic career. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of that journey?
Yeah, sure. Definitely in high school, was nowhere near the best guy on the team. You know, I'm sure probably a lot of kids in here may be in that similar situation. But the one thing I did stay constant to and true was, you know, making sure that whatever I did get on the field, I did put forth all my effort. You know, the opportunity presented itself. You know, whatever you're going through in life, whenever you have an opportunity, you got to walk through that door and take it. The starting safety had a sprained ankle. I was playing receiver at the time. They need someone to fill in the gap. You know, they said, well, this guy, he got some good speed. Why don't we just put him back there, see if he can, see if he can tackle. And a long story short, it was kind of, the history in the making there in high school, and went on to, gain a full scholarship to Central Michigan University, where when I went up there, again, similar situation. I was behind a lot of guys. And again, another opportunity presented itself. The guys who was in front of me, they ended up, for whatever reason, quitting, leaving school. So, again, I was, put into that spot. And, on down the road, I ended up being a 4-year starter there at Central Michigan. From there, I got an opportunity to play on the biggest stage in the world. So
you've got to find some motivation to keep yourself ready. You've just got to have that motivation to get up, do your work, do it every day, right, so that when that moment presents itself, you can step up. What influences in your life led you to have that kind of discipline so that you were ready when these opportunities presented themselves?
Just thinking about when I was younger, man, the coaches, one of their main lines were, when the time to perform has come, the time to prepare has passed. So you got to always, be ready, be on ready, because once that guy in front of you goes down, hey, it's on you now. You got to fill in that void. And you're only as good as your backup. So I didn't want to be that guy who let the team down, let my family down. Just wanted to be accountable for my teammates, I think, were the main thing. Whatever I could do to contribute to the team was my attitude.
And Justin, for you, you went to school in Virginia, being originally from Pittsburgh, Texas here. You had some familial challenges in your life that came up, and actually going even further back, you had some other challenges, a couple big challenges in your life growing up. Could you speak a little bit to those and how those influenced you?
What we're talking about originally, when I was 6 years old, It was me, my sister, and my mother, and my father. He died tragically in a traffic accident when I was 6. As a 6-year-old boy, originally that's a very devastating moment, obviously. I was very nervous about my mother, and I worried about her a lot. I remember in school just sitting there worrying that something was going to happen to her while I was gone. So I went through that stage. I worked my way through it, and for me, the way I work through adversity is I have a purpose in my mind, or a why do I need to fight this. At 6 years old, you don't have a lot of things to draw of, but I had my mother and my sister, and that was my purpose and my why. And I remember thinking, in my little mind, I'm now the man of the house, and I got to take over, and I got to make sure everybody's okay. Years went by. My mother remarried, and then you spoke about when I went to college. When I was 18, starting my sophomore year there, my stepfather died in a tragic accident also. Again, I worried about them being by themselves, and what am I going to do now? I'm in Virginia, they're in Texas, and so I had a kind of a different, set of problems to worry about, the distance and all that good stuff. So for me, I had to think in my mind, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish right now? What do I have to accomplish? What I ultimately come up with, my teammates in college, my friends in college, my mother's support with me staying in college, through that, I was able to, once again, drawing off all of that, recover from those two, tragedies that my family had to endure.
Were you questioning, like, what do I do here as an 18-year-old? Am I supposed to be in school? Am I supposed to be home? Was that a hard battle for you mentally?
Oh, yeah. I spent a lot of time wondering that. So, of course, we had the funeral, which I went home for, and that was kind of the easy part. But when I came back, and I had a lot of times where I sat in my room and I wondered, I keep leaving my mother by herself with my sister. I don't know what to do. But again, I have, my opinion, the greatest mother on earth and one of the strongest women I've ever been around. And she was the one I leaned on, which is not fair to her, but that's what happened. So I have a real strong family support staff. That's what got me through it. My family is my number one purpose in life and why, right, that I was talking about. And that's how I cope with any adversities that I come upon.
And Josh, what about for you through your collegiate career, your professional career? You played with 5 teams, but moving around a lot. It's a life on the go in many regards, and we've talked about that a little bit before. Mm-hmm. Did you ever have intersections where the professional demands on you and where your family was personally were challenging to negotiate?
Now, the first couple years in the league, I was by myself, singling and mingling, so.
Is that your big move right there?
Yeah. So when you moved in, I just pack up my 2 suitcases, put my TV in my car, and I just go to the next city. But, you got a family, it's tough. You got to pack up diapers and high chairs and packing plays and her stuff, But yeah, that's one thing that remained constant was like my family. My family, and then my, immediate family, mom and everybody. Always when other things changed in my professional life, that family stayed constant. So definitely was good to lean on those guys. And, I tell them all the time, y'all helped me get through it all, having all that change. And
Justin, to come back to you in college, in addition to playing football, and you recalled an experience you had as a kid when you visited a certain agency of the government, and that started you on the path that you've been on now. Can you give us a little background on that?
When I was in middle school, actually, we did a field trip to Washington, D.C., that was on the other side of the world for me at the time. During this trip, we visited the FBI building, the headquarters there in Washington, D.C., and man, I just remember thinking how cool it was, and thinking back about it, law enforcement is kind of my passion, I think, and it started when I was 6, when I felt the need to take care of my mother, take care of people, right, and make sure everybody's safe, and I love it. I love to do it. So I did get out of college, and I applied with Dallas Police Department. I got on with Dallas Police Department, but about 5 months into my training, DEA called me. I'd applied with them before, and so I left for Quantico in January of 2004.
What does a DEA agent, in broad strokes, do?
Obviously, we investigate, narcotics, violations of narcotics laws, federal narcotics laws, and that can be everything from sitting at a desk doing a report to the financial investigations at the computers to all of the office stuff. Moving out into surveillance, doing undercover buys or all kinds of operations outside of the office. I don't love sitting in an office. I'm not good at it. I need to be moving around. So it gives me a lot of, the ability to do that quite a bit.
Spent most of your career in Detroit, and that's been home for quite some time.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse, as you said, there's plenty of work for you as a DEA agent in Detroit. Maybe you should have mentioned this at the beginning. So a few years ago, there was an interest in trying to expand awareness of the DEA and trying to get more applicants to the DEA. So they were, or some organization was looking at doing a TV show to profile what it was like to be a part of the DEA, and they selected the branch in Detroit to profile. So for, what'd you say, 6 months?
About 6 months.
All right, I got that one right. For about 6 months, you had a film crew following you for this television show where you can see Justin's face on DEA Detroit. You can go home tonight and look it up. It was a Spike TV show. How do you function as a DEA agent when you have a film crew with you for 6 months?
They made it work, honestly. I thought my opinion of the show, I didn't have high expectations, honestly, of it. But when it started, after we, concluded and it came out, it did a good job of depicting kind of what we do in a broad, manner.
Without getting too in the way of the actual work.
Correct, yeah.
When we think about obstacles and challenges, obviously playing in the NFL, it's very exciting, it's a very positive thing. Playing the Super Bowl, very exciting, very positive. Very stressful, very challenging as well, I'm sure. So just curious to know, in the week that is leading up to the Super Bowl, that huge event, then that event itself, whether it's pressure from family and friends who are trying to get tickets, or it's trying to negotiate, PR thing, or whatever it may be, what are some of the things that people don't necessarily know that you're having to face, and how did you negotiate that?
Yeah, the tickets would be a hot topic. I know that year they was going for around, we could buy them for $900 a piece. So you couldn't buy too many for your family. That was my first year. I got 2 free, so I got those 2 and gave them to my mom, my dad. Don't tell nobody else this, y'all, but if you go back and watch...
No, it'll be a big secret. Shut the cameras off, guys.
Yeah, shut it down. If you go back and watch the Super Bowl, I was actually inactive for the game, so I was on the sideline, but I was part of the team.
You were part of the team?
Yeah. All in all, you're still part of the team. That's another thing I kind of dealt with past the Super Bowl was like, I had the ring. Sorry, I didn't bring the ring.
That's okay. We'll forgive you for not bringing the ring.
Yeah. I dealt with that kind of afterwards, like, do I really deserve the ring? Like, I didn't play in the game. But, over time, just talking to other people, like, no, man, you should really be proud, proud of whatever you do, being a part of that, being at that level, whatever you're doing, You might not be the one in the camera, but there's always got to be people, in the background that's making the engine work.
But, it reminds me, Justin, of what you were saying earlier about playing for each other and playing for the team. And we talk in this community about how bleeding disorders, there might be one person in the family who's got it, but it's a family disorder. It affects everybody. When you have a nucleus, whether it's a team, whether you're the one out in front or not, whether you do the exciting part or not, it's affecting everybody, and everybody has to work together to get to that common goal, or else no one's going to get there, and no one's going to be in front of the camera or having that glory moment. So Justin's our guest. We try to bring people in from outside the community who have faced obstacles and challenges in ways that they have an interesting perspective. And as a DEA agent with some substantial losses in your life, you certainly fit the bill. But Josh is actually part of this community. His nephew has severe hemophilia and an inhibitor. He has a foundation that he started to help support people with hemophilia called the Josh Gordy Hope Foundation. He has a scholarship that he does in collaboration with NHF. So is there anything that you want to touch on with regard to hemophilia?
Well, I mean, you covered it pretty well. Definitely when Nolan was born, that's when we first learned about it, which I'm sure a lot of people in the room probably had the same situation. I did always say if I made it to the NFL, I wanted to use that platform, not knowing that I would make it. I said if I did make it, I wanted to make the best of it, and wanted to use that platform for whatever advantage I could, and that was definitely what was close to my heart. We started a nonprofit back in 2012, educational scholarship that we do every year. We just had our 5K July 15th down in Georgia. Went well. Did it in a new location, which was a little shaky, but we got it done, and we had a good turnout. That pretty much sums it up. Nephew's doing great. Just got his learner's permit.
It comes up a lot when I talk to people about hemophilia or bleeding disorders, and they say, are there celebrity faces out there? And I get into the history of the community and what health was like, in the 50s and 60s, and then what we went through in the 70s and 80s, and the reasons that we don't have those people. And I just personally am always thankful how active you have been and continue to be for this community with the platform that you have, that you can use that for good. and you point that good toward the hemophilia community. Thank you for continuing to do that.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, so some questions for the two of you guys, and in a few minutes I'll open up as well if anybody out here has questions as well. I'll start this with you, Justin. You're both what I would consider like tough guys, strong guys, both physically, mentally. You both have done stuff in life that I think qualifies as strong, tough men. But we were talking, Justin, just yesterday about moments where you felt that rattled, and so I'm curious to know from both of you. We'll start with Justin. When has there been a moment in your life where you suddenly felt as though, oh, I'm not invincible, or felt particularly weak or defeated?
Yeah. After I got done playing, college football, and I started with the Dallas Police Department, I become a DEA agent. I'm 24 years old. I'm invincible, right? I'm the toughest guy in the world. And I started having pains in my legs. Again, I think there couldn't be anything wrong with me. So I ignored it, and finally it got to a point where I couldn't really put, weight on my legs. So I went into a doctor, and he's looking at me. He doesn't really know what's going on. He said, well, we'll do an ultrasound, make sure there's no, blood clotting. And so they took me in and did the ultrasound on my leg, and turned out I did, in fact, have a blood clot that ran from my ankle to my knee. They rushed me from there up to a hospital bed, slam IVs in my arm. They're pumping me full of blood thinners. And I remembered what you were talking about when I was laying there, and I realized how very serious this is, and it hit me, it really hit me, that I'm not invincible, and I'm very vulnerable, actually. And man, what a terrifying feeling, first of all, eye-opening, just all of this in a moment. So I laid there for about a week in that bed and had nothing but that to think about, and man, it was tough. It was really tough. So I don't have anyone affected by hemophilia directly in my family, but I did have this situation, and so I can appreciate. It can be a lonely feeling, right? This is why this happened to me, kind of thing. I've done everything I should do, and I've been healthy, and I worked out, and I'm in law enforcement. I'm taking care of people. I'm on my way, and then all of a sudden this. But again, I go back to what I lean on, which is a couple of things. For me at that time, my purpose in life, right, is my family always. That's always my purpose. But then now I have my team that I work with. They depend on me, right, and they need me. So I use those things in my mind to be strong and figure out a way to cope with this, and get through it. So, ultimately it worked out, and everything's good, and here we are. So,
was there anything that changed in your behavior after that moment of vulnerability that you can pinpoint?
In my line of work, unfortunately, I can't be scared. My guys depend on me to not be that. So in my mind, I had to get past it and do what I had to do to take care of my people, right? And that's what it was for me. I had to move on, and I did. So definitely aware, though, right? More aware.
Sure.
So.
What about for you, Josh? Any moment that kind of akin to that for you?
I think the one that sticks out to me, going back to my rookie year training camp, you gotta imagine you just came out of college. You've been one of the top 10 guys on your team. So, you always know you got a secure role on the team, secure starting spot, and all that good stuff. But being in rookie training camp as an undrafted free agent guy, you're going through the weeks, you're knocking the weeks out, you're feeling comfortable, you're thinking you're doing what you're supposed to do. You get to week 3 of the preseason, then bam, all of a sudden you're released, and now you're back home on your mama's couch, and you're like, man, what's next? And at that time, it really brings you down, humbles you. Even though it was a blessing, it can be taken from you any minute, any moment. And just out of the blue, got a call from Green Bay. So from that point on, I said, hey, I'm leaving. I ain't coming back. So once I got up there, I made sure I just, gave all the effort I had, and it was a success from there.
Other questions? Yes.
And my question is, a professional athlete that goes to the highest level has to have an extreme level of discipline, which is a very important thing for somebody who has a bleeding disorder. We speak about the importance of discipline to the kids that are listening to you.
Mm-hmm. Great question.
And yeah, you say professional athlete, but I would say this: it's across all professions. You got a goal in mind. If you want to be a DEA agent, professional athlete, doesn't matter. You got that goal, you set it in front of you, and you repeat it, you see it every day. You know what you got to do to get there. Study the ones who did it before you. What disciplines did they do to keep themselves on track. For me, it's, when it's time to train, it's time to train. It's time to eat right. You got to eat right. Getting 10 hours of sleep is optimal. You got to do it. Keep your body healthy. So, just setting that goal out there in front of you and seeing it and just staying fixed on it. That's my take.
I want to give Justin a chance to respond to that as well, but sometimes setting that goal, at least speaking for myself, it can seem so great that I get overwhelmed by the idea of it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to know, what's the first step? Or if I take a step or two and fall down, it feels like, forget it, that's too far away. Yeah. So once you have that goal, how do you set yourself up so that you can be successful early enough to build some momentum and keep yourself on the path?
I think so. When you had a big goal, then obviously you got to break it down into subset goals. Same thing, I want to be an athlete. How many hours a day am I training? What kind of film study am I doing? I think it's just breaking it down into smaller goals so you won't be, like you said, overwhelmed with the big picture. And, you tackle those small goals. And it triggers something in your brain. I knocked that off. Okay, cool. Next step, knock that off. I made it a habit. You make goals and you got to make them a habit. They say it takes, 21 days to make something a habit?
Yeah, I think that's the benchmark that they say.
You go working out for 21 days, now it's nothing to get up at 5 a.m. and go get it in, and now I can focus on the next goal. So
I think that was perfect. And I think it is important. The big goal is where it starts, but making sure that you have your goals after that so that you know the path by which you plan to get to the big goal. Justin, what would you say about the role of discipline in your life and why it's important for people, especially people who are facing exceptional challenges, to find that discipline?
In my life, discipline is everything. I pride myself on it. So to get into whatever you're deciding to get in, I think, like you said, it is critical, right? And you're going to run into obstacles, you're going to have adversities, and we have to figure out a way to get through them, right? We talked about that. And I got to share this with you. I do not mean to be cheesy, guys. I don't. But this is one of my favorite. I ran into this a few years ago. It's a motivational poster, basically, and I'm sure some have seen it. But I live by this. And when I run into adversity, I say it to myself, and it fires me up every single time. But it reads, "Fate whispers to the warrior, you cannot weather the storm. And the warrior replies, I am the storm." That sums up how I try to carry myself everywhere I go. Things get crazy, they get chaotic, whether it's an illness or whatever it is, your work, whatever's happening to you. Your grade, your school's bothering you, whatever's happening, just think to yourself, I'm the storm. I'm going to fight for this. I'm going to get through it, right? And I don't mean to be cheesy, guys. Truly, that I have that hanging on my wall in my office at home. That's what this tattoo says on my arm. And I live it. I try to live it every day. It's a phenomenal thing to read every once in a while, just to remind yourself that you can do it. You can get through anything, absolutely anything.
All right, I got to fill in the blank for you. The best piece of advice I ever received was.
I'll give you a quote that I got one time, and this one is not as powerful as the other, but my uncle said to me one time, so if you fail to plan to fail. And I was about 14 when it happened, when he said it to me, and I was like, man, it's still simple, but it's so true. So I try to plan whatever goals I have in life or whatever I'm trying to accomplish, I got to have a plan to get there, right? And I think it's great advice, and it's pretty simple too, so.
What about for you, Josh?
Probably never be afraid to stop learning. I forgot who said it, but it said if it's somebody say they know it all, then they probably don't know nothing at all. If you're ever the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You go to another room, you can always learn something. So that's probably my.
I like that. I've never heard that. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. I think you're working undercover right now or something. I don't trust that at all. Is there any other questions from out here? That's priority. Going once. Go. Okay, we got a couple. One here, then one in the back.
In talking about leadership and obstacles, was there ever a point that you hit that you wanted to quit, and what did you do to overcome it?
You want to go first?
Mine was, the first time I thought about quitting football was my first day of training camp in college, because it's a whole different ball game. You get there and they give you this thick packet, of your schedule for, 3 weeks. And they do it on purpose, so you can look at it and you just flip through and you just like, how am I going to get through it 2 practices a day? Being at that practice that first time, I was like, man, I don't know if it's for me. But I kept thinking about, guys who I saw go off from home in my small town and, for whatever reason, fizzle out and end up back there. I didn't want to do that. And I knew I had a lot of young kids looking up to me too as well. So I said, look, man, I gotta fight through this, and if it don't kill me, it'll only make me stronger.
I tried out for a team of ours in Virginia, and the tryout's extremely grueling, mentally, physically. They're trying to see who's going to quit on them, right? Anyone who went through this that tells you they didn't think about quitting is I'll tell you, is a liar, because it's brutal. And I got to that point, and I remember the moment where I decided to quit. I decided that this is too much. First of all, I was ashamed of it, absolutely ashamed of it, and because I've never quit anything in my life, but I got there. How did I get over it? My teammates, right, that were with me, they grabbed me, yanked me up, tell me get back at it, and then we're back to what I told you before, my purpose. At the time, my children, my kids are the most important thing in the world to me, and so I just think about them and disappointing them, and being better than quitting, right? When things get hard again, back to what I said before, I'm going to take over. I'm the storm. I'm going to be the one that's going to get through this, right? So that's how I handled it. I know it wasn't necessarily your question, but it was a moment in the DEA where I got to that point.
And I think you had shared with me, we mentioned that as well too, how that with the moment where your teammate, as you just referred to him, helped you kind of get over that hump and keep it going was a moment of great pride and joy as well, right? So there's that kind of, that can be on the flip side often of when we want to quit, is when we get over that hump and whoever helped us get there, it's a moment of elation, of a release, of bonding. There's kind of, if you can keep going, there's something great on the other side.
Yeah, people you lean on and you, I'll say fight with, but in whatever you're doing, the guys or ladies that you do that with, the bond there is, there's nothing else like it.
The National Hemophilia Foundation, the larger of the two national organizations that we have, was really started by moms. Moms trying to understand, before we had the treatments that we have today and the care we have today, moms are trying to figure it out and working together to figure it out. You're both family men and fathers, but you also both grew up with mothers. And I'm curious to know about the role that your moms have played in your lives and developing you into the men you are. So whoever would like to take that first, can you speak a little bit to how your mom influenced you?
From my perspective, my mom, she was a single mom until I was 8. So she's definitely always had to be strong, Actually, from the year I was born to probably 5 years ago, she worked at Walmart. So that's all I knew, her getting up early in the morning, working, coming home and doing what she had to do. But, taking me to my first recreation football game, so she did play a vital role.
Do you think that helped to impact your work ethic and discipline, watching her as a single mom kind of getting up, going to work, and fighting the good fight?
Oh, yeah, because, even when you're a kid, you see it's a lot of work, but you really don't know how much it was until you get your own kids, So I was like, man, hats off to her. I always try to show I love her anytime I get, and, definitely pay it back, whatever it be, so.
What about for you, Justin?
Yeah, I'd already said it before. My mother's one of the strongest women I've ever met. And so, at 6 years old, my sister was 4. She becomes a single mother, runs with it, doesn't show us the obvious devastation that she felt, right? We didn't see that from her. So just learning that strength from her, her going to work every day. She's never stopped that, never. She's the matriarch of my whole entire family. So everything I am is because of her, no doubt about it. I tell her to her face, and hopefully she'll get to see this, because I don't tell her enough. That's just one of those things you forget to say it, but I wouldn't be here without her.
So you're both in the last couple of years in new phases of your professional lives. So when we talk about that big goal and going after that goal, can you state today what your goal is when you think about yourself as a professional? What is your goal today, and maybe how it's different from what it was 5 years ago when you were in the NFL and before you were in this role now, Justin?
So I think now I'm just striving to be a professional father, professional husband, and be there for my family, provide for them the best that I can. I've really transitioned and, you know, got different values in life now. So,
And for you, Justin?
For me, like you said, we started this SRT program, and they made me the team leader, which I didn't deserve, but I gladly take it. So my goal right now is to make this thing work the way DEA wants it to work. It's new to our agency. So professionally, that's my goal right now. And then my family, like I said, my kids are my whole world. We're getting ready to start football Monday. That takes the rest of my time. And so my goal is just to be a good dad.
Again, thinking about putting this particular conversation together, you are both men, and when I think about like what is a man like, you know, you both fit that mold in a way for me because of what you've accomplished. But then knowing you guys a bit now and hearing you speak and being open about vulnerabilities and challenges and the priorities in your life, your family, and doing the right thing, I think that's really important. And I think that's important for us to remind ourselves, you know, we with bleeding disorders and with hemophilia, especially those of us who care to be athletically inclined and want to be physical and are significantly challenged in that regard, there are moments of self-doubt and identity crises and looking at people like the two of you and thinking like, oh man, like I have no idea what that's like. But then these conversations reveal that we're all just human. We all face challenges. We all have vulnerabilities. And it's about how you navigate those, the perspectives that you have, the discipline that you enact in your life to reach the goals that you want that really define who you are and the kind of character that you present to the world. And I think this conversation that came through. So thank you both for being here and being open to sharing your story with us and with the community, and as Jorge said, with anyone who will see the content that comes out of this. So nice round of applause for Josh and Justin.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
To watch video from any of our previous Powering Through sessions, visit poweringthrough.org, or to learn more about National Cornerstone Healthcare Services, NCHS, visit nchswecare.com.